basically, I have been in and out of therapy since I was about 8 years old, which is when my parents got divorced.
Right.
Why do you think current methods take so long, if not forever,
You know,
when
it's
it comes to
interesting.
therapy?
So there's this website called Mad in America. And the kind of mission of that website is more about psychiatry versus psychology. So it's more about how, pharmacists, how pharmacology, pharmaceuticals are used for mental health issues. But they definitely also have not an anti-psychology kind of bent, but certainly a questioning psychology. I have an
Hmm.
article coming out on Thursday, so 2 days, which talks to this exactly. I can give you a whole bunch of reasons why therapy hasn't worked for you. But the most important thing, and this is the key, by the time a person is going to go to therapy, they probably have been struggling with something for a period of time and they're not progressing. So they feel like they're failing, right? And to me, that's kind of a not a good way of looking at it. And I'll explain what that means in a second. Also, I think you have this, and you could back me up in this. I think you have this concept of, okay, I'm going to a person who's a behavior expert. If this relationship doesn't work out, I did something wrong, or there's something wrong with me. Have you ever done that? Like how
Yeah.
do you, okay. I was talking to a woman whose kind of specialty in her clinic is people preventing suicide, and people who considered it and putting them through therapy. I was talking about doing a test class with her. The first line of my test class was going to be, if this doesn't work out, that's my problem. That's my responsibility. I have failed you. And I think that's a really important mindset for you to have as a person who's gone to therapy, especially for all those years, is to recognize that you're the person with the problem, right? You're going to the person who's supposed to fix it. If it doesn't get fixed, that's not your problem, right?
Yeah.
Think of it the same way. Think of it like if you went to a place with a car and there was something wrong with it, and you went to a mechanic and he didn't fix it or she didn't fix it, you wouldn't say, "Oh, geez, there's something wrong with my car," right? And to me, that's a
That's
great
absolutely
analogy,
correct, and I've never thought of it that way.
right? And so that's the first part. So the first part is, if it hasn't worked, that's not your responsibility. That's not your fault, I should say. Okay, that's number one. The second thing is that, and this is kind of getting back to the article I was talking about. There's a whole host of reasons why it doesn't work. And these are kind of a lot of the things that I've designed my system around. One of them, as you're very familiar with, is the micro tribe. The concept that you're going to so if you're unable to change your behavior on your own, and you're going to a therapist, clearly you're hoping that they're going to help you change it, but you're trying to do it on your own still. You're seeing them for an hour a week. So for 167 hours a week, I think there's 168 a week, and 100 waking hours, you don't have that support. And to me,
Right.
that's kind of the problem. You have these habits, you kind of, these a bunch of them are knee-jerk reactions, and you just do things the way you've been doing them for 10, 20, 30, 40 years. So the likelihood that you're going to change them on your own is very remote. That and a number of other things are, to me, the kind of the fundamental, what do you call it, flaws of the current approach to psychology. Let me give you some numbers that might hearten you. The average person goes through 3 or 4 therapists before they find the one. Okay. Every person, when they go to a therapist, they go through 4 or 5 sessions to see whether or not that person is kind of gelling with them. So they really don't start talking about their issues until a month into things. Then at that point, the question is, well, what do you do? And what I have found, and I try not to sound anti therapist, because if they work for you, great, and there are plenty of good people, and they're all trying to help, but
Yeah.
definitely is flawed. I think that a lot of therapists, and certainly my personal experience from people I've seen and interact with them, is that they're much more about coping mechanisms.
Right.
So what happens is that if you're a person who's looking at whatever kind of objective measurement, and who knows how you determine whether or not you're making progress, right? For you, like for example, suicidal ideation, right? How often do I think about it? How severe and stuff like that, you know. So you have something that you could measure in addition to a bunch of different other things. Am I sleeping too much? However you measure it. right? I think what they teach you more is how to deal with those individual issues versus the underlying cause of it. As a result, you kind of have this never ending run to fix what the problems are without to me it's always going to surface in some way or another, right?
Right.
If it's not, if you're not getting enough sleep, then you're going to feel maybe tired during the day, or maybe you're either under eating or overeating. To me, this like there's going to be some issue that if you don't fix the underlying issue, it's going to just surface in another way. So I think a lot of therapy just kind of focuses on a coping mechanism, maybe dealing with one thing versus the underlying issue. So there's a whole bunch of hosts of, so there's like 4 or 5 answers for you. One,
Right.
if it doesn't work out, it's not you, it's them. Number two, um, you're only seeing them an hour a week. How much impact can they have? A lot of them are teaching coping mechanism. And to me, there's this very, and this is probably the biggest thing, it's very ad hoc. How many different therapists do you think you've gone to over the course of 40 years?
Over 4 years?
40.
40 years.
Yeah. Just make up a number. I mean, do you don't have to.
I would say at least 20.
Okay, so 20. Out of those 20 therapists, how many of them have the same approach?
None of them.
And there you go. So to me, if you're someone again, you have some cognitive challenge. You're going to therapy because something behaviorally and cognitively is not working for you.
Yeah.
The last thing in my mind that you want is ambiguity. If they had a standard system that they all followed, maybe they teach it differently, kind of like math and science and English, right?
Right.
Granted, right? So you have this kind of structured approach in all those subjects, and you have teachers who do teach it differently. Maybe one uses more visual imagery, one uses, I don't know, games and stories and so on. But that's the point, is that so you have this uncertainty going in, and you're now like, okay, I'm learning a whole other new thing. So to me, it's like learning a new language each time, and maybe that language is going to teach you how to communicate. So, to me, I would not take it to heart. And, I'm kind of all about that in general, you know, separating, not beating yourself up. Yes, it's your responsibility. You have to, get better, right? That's not someone else's
Right.
job, but it's not your fault if you don't.